One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, 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 oh, glory, glory.
Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots be on the ground, the camera panned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, glory, glory. Now the war is not over, victory isn't won, but we'll fight on to the finish, and then when it's all done, we'll cry glory, oh glory, oh, we'll cry glory, oh glory, oh.
Selma is now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing the League of Justice, his power was the people. Enemy is lethal, a king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald ego. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed through. Somewhere in the dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs in history. No one can win a war individually. It take the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh,
You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Rita, did we have glory yesterday?
We had glory yesterday, Joanne. And it was a long time coming. It's been a long time coming for our community to get some accountability. I'm not going to use the word justice because there are a lot of other families in the same position as the Floyd family. But we got some glory yesterday, some accountability. How are you, Joanne?
I'm doing well. I guess I felt I wasn't quite sure how this trial was, what the verdict was going to be. I thought it would probably be hung because I have so little faith in
Yes.
in a group of 12 people to see the humanity of black people. And
Yes.
so, you know, for me, it was questionable. But to hear that he was convicted on all three counts, now my cynicism is back again as to whether or not he will get the full import of the sentencing. So I'm waiting
Right.
to see that. And then as we were doing that, a 16-year-old in Ohio, in
Right.
Columbus, Ohio, was shot. And while I don't know all of the facts, it seems to me that they claim that she had a knife and that
Right.
she was going to stab another person, and they were down in the grass, and they were the only thing that the cop could do was load 4 bullets into her to stop that.
I mean, it's the same thing over and over. It's the use of deadly force against people in our community rather than utilizing their de escalation training. Okay, they get hours and hours of all kinds of different training: first aid, de escalation, the use of force, what's proper, when, how to do it. And over and over again, they use deadly force with people from our community. And it's just over and over. So
Okay.
although we got accountability for Chauvin for the killing and the murdering of George Floyd, it still goes on. It goes on and on in our community. So yes, it's a pivotal moment, but are we going to pivot in the right direction?
A lot of lessons from yesterday's verdict, and it starts with that when you have a team of people who are dedicated to trying these cases, you may get a different result than what we have been getting. And what do I mean by that? So, Attorney General Keith Ellison of Minnesota handled that trial, picked the team that was of prosecutors that would go into the court,
Right.
invested time and money and energy, planned a strategy that would work, and boxed the defense in such a way that it was very difficult for them to present a realistic defense. You know, they went back to the kind of defense that we hear all the time, that
All the time.
George Floyd was some superhuman person. You know, when I don't like watching the police thrillers because they shoot somebody in on TV, and Hollywood likes to give you that extra excitement. So they shoot the person, and then they pump a million bullets at them, and they'd still get back up, because they have to come for you for the for the last time. And so I believe that when they start presenting a defense of the actions of police, they say that, well, one bullet wasn't sufficient, two wasn't sufficient, a hail of bullets up, because we're so superhuman
Right.
that
He's
that
so
we're
afraid.
that we're just gonna pop right back up. And part of this defense was, he held him down for as long as he did, because who knows, he might have gotten back up and did something with his hands cuffed and all of this, and even
Right.
after he was
He
dead, he
could
was
get back up with his hands cuffed behind his back,
right.
laying on his
And
stomach.
they also thought he could get back up dead,
That's right.
because that was a part of it. And
Right. He
so
was such a big man.
yeah, and that's it. Bigger, subhuman strength, all of those things, and
Hmm.
usually they work. So why is that important to us, Rita, about who we have as Attorney General, who we have as DA?
Of
Why is
course,
that?
it's important because someone with the same experiences as we do is going to bring the right charges, number one, and he's going to bring a team together that has the experience and the firsthand experience and knowledge of our community. So it's important because they don't gloss over what really happened. They look at what happened and they bring the right charges from the beginning. So what were the charges? He was charged with second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. He was convicted of all three, found guilty. So what is second-degree unintentional murder? It's felony murder. So during the commission of a felony, someone dies. Chauvin caused Floyd's death without intent, but he was committing a felony of third-degree assault. What's third-degree assault? Intentional infliction of substantial bodily harm. What's third-degree murder? Third-degree murder is causing the death by a perpetrator, an act of eminently dangerous, an act that is eminently dangerous to others, evincing a depraved mind without regard to human life. It's extreme recklessness, like if you had a gun and you shot into a crowd. That's third-degree murder. Second-degree manslaughter, causing death by culpable negligence, which is gross negligence with recklessness. Each one he was charged, each count he was charged with, he was found guilty of. And that's because the prosecutor brought the right charges, because he knew he could prove them. He could prove them, and that he could bring it home.
I think they put
a reasonable doubt. He knew he could.
I think they put enough resources, and they picked the right team in order to prosecute the case.
They picked the right team.
The point that I make is that it is important not to have an attorney general and a DA that's in the pockets of the police. That's the point that I make.
Police.
That's in the pockets. When you take money from the FOP, then you're the prosecutor. You're not free, or the fact that you would even accept it shows that you're not willing to be free. And the problem that we have had in this city and in the others, where we're in Eric Gardner in New York, and some of the others, is that they were too close of a relationship with the prosecutors, with the police, and that's why they couldn't get convictions. Right. Because they didn't want them. They didn't try them in a way to get them.
That's a conflict right there. How can you be without conflict if you're accepting money from the police department? And so you're sympathetic. And so your prosecutorial skills, your intuition is compromised.
Your will to do it. We're going to take a call, Rita.
Okay.
We're going to go to Maurice in North Philly.
Hey, ladies. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, and both of you ladies are right, but I think we're missing something. Just Keith Ellis, I want to make a couple points. Keith Ellis did a brilliant job. He broke the football team up. They couldn't block for one another. But the two stars of the prosecution case was the 9-year-old girl and the 17-year-old black girl. That video they had should win them a Nobel Peace Prize. That video went global. And it was easy for the prosecution to lay their case out because all they did was bring the experts in to talk about what they seen on the video. Without that video, we are in a tough battle because if we go back to the original of the case, it was said that Floyd died from medical complications. The police chief didn't know until the NAACP contacted him and say, look at the video. He said, what video? He didn't even know nothing about a video because he took the police word. That's one thing. One thing I want us to notice, too. Minnesota is not like Pennsylvania. It's not a Commonwealth state. Minnesota is a good time, earned time state, meaning this. If you get 40 years, you only do a quarter of your time. So out of 40, he say he do 12 years. Because you have good time, earned time, You don't go in front of the judge, you don't need parole. They have something called mandatory release. So if you get 12 years, you might do anywhere like 7.5 to 8 years to 9 because it's a mandatory release. Wherever you have states that have mandatory release and good time, earned time, you don't need to see the parole board.
Well, they also, in this, I think the prosecutors asked for a special circumstances. And so so they want him to, that there's special circumstances, and I think it was because of the two young women that you talked about, and we were going to talk about them too, but we got to go to break, and so we thank you for the call. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on Facebook, on WURD.com. We'll be back.
WURD Radio 2021 Level Up winner Anissa Smith is hosting her Black Food and Dessert Expo April 23rd, 24th, and 25th at the Urban Ridge, located at 5261 Ridge Avenue in Philadelphia. Titled The Spring Pop-Up Experience, is a power hour of sampling delicious food and drinks from one of the local chefs and bakers. Come taste and shop and have an amazing time in unity, safely together. The Black Food and Dessert Expo are excited to offer a place for consumers to shop safely while supporting Black-owned businesses. Safety is the #1 concern. This is a mask-required event, except when you're sampling the food, of course. They have built-in 1-hour breaks to properly clean and sanitize the venue in between shop blocks. All guests will have their temperature taken before entry, and sanitizer and hand wipes will be available throughout the venue. To purchase tickets, go to the letter B, fadetickets.com. Again, that's bfadetickets.com. See you all for the Black Food and Dessert Expo Spring Pop-Up Experience. See you there.
In recognition of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Month, WURD Radio presents the following vignette from WURD President and CEO Sarah Lomax Reese.
What is corporate America's responsibility for addressing systemic inequality? It's historically factual that much of America's wealth was built from the brutal system of forced free labor of enslaved Africans. In fact, some of our biggest companies today made their fortunes through the business of slavery. But even when slavery ended in 1865, Black Americans faced Jim Crow laws enforcing segregation, voter suppression, redlining, and the decades-long practice of denying Black workers jobs in factories, unions, and most corporations. This has led to a racial wealth gap that is staggering. In 2017, and this was before the global pandemic decimated the economy, the median net worth of Black families was just $11,000, a fraction of the $134,000 owned by white families. Today, we are witnessing an unprecedented commitment to address some of these wrongs. In the aftermath of the racial justice protests last summer, many companies have renewed their pledges to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. But what does this really mean? Over the next few weeks, as part of our livelihood initiative, and in recognition of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Month, we will be exploring this question through a series of on-air vignettes and conversations. We'll especially focus on what's happening here in Philadelphia to empower Black people and our businesses through hiring, procurement, investments, and board participation. For more information, go to wordradio.com and click on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion banner. And stay tuned to WURD for ongoing discussion and more information about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
This vignette was sponsored by PICO, Thomas Jefferson University, Jefferson Health, and Comcast.
You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, streaming live on WURDRadio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Hi, this is Lionel Richie. What better time than now to be reminded that today, more than ever, we need to come together as one. On the 35th anniversary of We Are the World, we remember what life really is all about and send our love.
There comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one. There are people dying. Oh, when it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. We can't go on pretending day by day that someone somewhere will soon make a change. We all a part of great big family. And the truth, you know, love is all we need. Beyond the world, beyond the children, beyond the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true, we make a better day, just you and me. Well, send them your heart.
You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com. And we are back, and we have a very, very, very special guest with us, joining us today. And, you know, I have interfaced with, over the years, as a lobbyist with Delaware County, and it was basically the county government was basically white and Republican. And over the years, the look of Delaware County has changed, with a number of people of color moving into the county from various places, including Philadelphia. And so I'm pleased today to have someone that represents the new, bright leadership of Delaware County. And I'm excited because there was an interesting article that was in the paper this past week introducing us to Dr. Monica Taylor. And when I read her history, it is, you know, we got some super women out here. I mean, super duper duper women. And you know that old commercial that used to say, you know, I can bring home the bacon and fried in the pan too. Well, she does all of that and a whole bunch more. And so I'd like to introduce you, and we're gonna go through her story and talk a little bit about how she got there, how she became the vice chair of the council, but she's also a professor. I mean, and so I'm going to let you talk to her. So, Dr. Taylor, how are you today? You got your put your mic on.
I'm
Taylor,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. So, Dr. Taylor, tell our listening audience a little bit about you.
Well, so I live in Upper Darby with my family, my husband and our 3 girls. I am a professor at the University of Sciences, and I also run one of the undergraduate programs there. And I sit on county council as the vice chair in Delaware County.
Now, there was a little route that you took before you became a professor, and so tell us about that. Tell us, where did you grow up?
Yes, so I grew up in North Wilmington. Went to high school at AI DuPont. I played basketball all throughout my life. I played basketball at a travel league that was based in Delaware County, and in particular with Upper Darby, Havertown residents, Philly residents. And so I played Division I basketball in college, had a full scholarship to play Division I basketball, and then went overseas and played professional basketball before coming back home and getting my graduate degree, in my master's degree first. And then I worked for a while with my master's degree. And so my focus is on clinical exercise physiology. So working with patients who have heart or lung issues and are either coming out of stent surgery or bypass surgery and getting them back on their feet. And then getting my PhD and going on to be a professor.
Wow, that's a lot. So go back to your career in basketball. Where were you overseas, and where did you play?
I played in Ireland. So I played professional basketball in Ireland, and so we played teams that were all around the country and also in other countries.
So you actually lived in Ireland then?
Yes, I lived in Killarney, Ireland.
How did you find it? How did you find it?
I enjoyed it. I mean, Ireland's a great country. It's beautiful, rains a lot, but it's a beautiful country to be in, great people, and I enjoyed living there. It's really interesting when you're living in Europe because, you know, you forget how big the US is. And back then, it was so cheap to travel around Europe and like we could catch a flight from where we were in Ireland. It'd be like $25 round trip to go to London a day.
Oh, so you traveled a lot, I guess, into Europe.
Yes, I did. I had a few other friends who were playing professional basketball in other countries. So I had a friend who was playing in Portugal, and I had another friend who was playing in Iceland, I believe, at the time.
Wow.
So that sounds exciting. So, okay, so you left your basketball career, and what came next?
I left my basketball career. I went to get my master's degree, and I got that from East Stroudsburg University. And I actually, after I got done my master's degree, I actually worked at West Point Military Academy for a while, and I was working there training the female cadets.
Oh, that's a big thing to do. Yes. Yeah. I like that.
Like physical training or training after injuries or what?
No,
led to the path?
I was actually doing physical training for the female athletes. So I was the head for all of the female sports, the bigger female sports like women's basketball, women's volleyball, those sports, and training them in order to compete in their competitions.
Great, okay. Great. And how long did you do that?
I was at West Point for 2 years.
Oh, that's great.
Before going on to do my PhD at Pitt.
So then you left East Stroudsburg, and then you went to Pittsburgh.
Yes, so I left East Stroudsburg, went to West Point, and then after West Point, went to Pittsburgh to do my PhD.
Okay. Great. So now along the way now, you got married.
Yes, I did. I got married when we were in Pittsburgh. I was doing my PhD. Although I met my husband at East Stroudsburg when I was doing my master's degree. He was actually the assistant basketball coach for the women's basketball team.
So you have that very athletic children then.
We'll see. We'll see. They're young still.
How old are your children?
So I have a soon-to-be 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 6-month-old.
A 6-month-old?
Oh, 6-month-old.
Oh, God bless you.
Yes.
And I'm sure the 8 and the 6-year-old have taken over the house.
Oh, yes. Yes, they have.
And you just have to let them right now.
They're the boss. They're the boss.
Yes, they are.
They're the boss. Okay, so now tell me about the next phase of your career.
So the next phase of my career, I started off as a professor in exercise physiology, and we actually lived in, my first job as a professor was actually in Iowa. And so when I finished my PhD, my husband and I thought that this was a great time for us to not live on the East Coast where we had always been. And so we didn't have kids, and we thought, let's go somewhere different and try something new. And so I had applied for jobs basically on the West Coast and the Midwest, and ended up falling in love with a smaller university in Iowa. And we were in Iowa for 4 years where I was a professor.
Wow, 4 years.
Now, how did you find that?
Through the recruitment process.
No. How did you find living there?
Oh, how did I find living there? It's different, but it's not a bad different. It's just a lot slower in the Midwest. Like there's no rush to go anywhere. There's not a lot of traffic, or even if there is, it's like a little tiny bit, and everyone thinks it's like the worst traffic ever. You haven't been where I'm from.
Right. That's right.
And people are nice and always complimentary and always ready to help out, and just a really open community, which is similar. I mean, even here, although we're so much more densely packed, I find that there's the same characteristics. Everybody is really focused on community and trying to work together for the better good of where we live at.
What was the minority population in Iowa?
In Iowa, it was
Yeah.
small, small. I'm not sure about what the percentage was.
And you didn't find any racial tension when you were there?
No, not when I was there. And where I lived at was Davenport, which is kind of, if you're going to call it city for Iowa, that would be more of a city area. And so it was called the Quad City area because there were two Iowa cities along with two Illinois cities right on the river. And so we weren't really in necessarily where you would call like maybe the more of the farmland area.
Yeah, more of the heartland type. Yeah.
Yes.
So then you left Iowa. Then where did you go from there?
Then I came back home. We had two little ones at that. Well, one little one and one on the way, and we came back to the area to be closer to home, closer to family, and I had the opportunity to be able to be a part of youth sciences and really coming in an administrative role and creating a program there that they really were looking for something that was more clinical based, really and specializing in what my field was. And so I was able to come in and create something there. So it was a amazing opportunity for me at that point in my career. And it gave us the opportunity to come back home. Everyone was happy because we had the only grandkids on both sides of the family. So everybody was happy for us to be able to come back home. We moved to Upper Darby because I had so many friends that, from my days playing travel basketball, I had so many friends who lived in Delaware County and who were still there and in the Philadelphia area. So we just thought that this was the perfect place for us, close to family, easy access to my job and friends. And that's kind of where we've been.
Well, good. Now
great.
we're going to get into
Great.
the. So what made you run for office?
So I ran for office. The first time I ran for office, I ran for school board in 2017 in Upper Darby, and for me, it was more of I've always been involved in the community and trying to work on whatever I can and however I can help the community. And I thought that a good way for me to try and help, and with my background in academics, I thought school board would be a really great place for me to be able to help my community. And so I ran for school board in 2017 and absolutely love being on school board. I know it's a place where you can make an impact directly in your community immediately, and you're impacting so many lives and the families and the students who are involved in the school district and the administration, the teachers. Upper Darby School District is a great school district, and my kids are in the school district and they'll be in there for a long time, many years to come. And so that's why I wanted to be on school board. And
as an educator, that's an endorsement to say that you're comfortable with your children being in the Upper Darby School District. So it must mean that you believe that they are getting the kind of instructions that we would only hope that our children in Philadelphia school system could give. And some of our callers believe that we should, in fact, have an elected school board here in Philadelphia so that we can have the choice and the involvements that we need to have. And so it seems to me that you ran for the school board and you're endorsing the result as a result of having an elected school board in Upper Darby.
Yes, I am. I would not have my kids anywhere else. I love that school district, and it does, there are things that my children are able to do at the school district and things I'm looking forward to them being able to do when they get into the middle school or the high school, and having the options of being a part of robotics clubs and all horticulture club and all the different things that the school district offers to our students is really amazing, especially in the size that they are, and the fact that in Pennsylvania we don't necessarily do a great job at funding public education. What they are able to do in that district with what they're getting and the lack of resources that they have at the state level, it's really amazing.
I want to come back to that. We have to go to break, and I want to come right back to the school board issue. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com, and we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama. Barack and I are so thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine because this is a deadly disease, and this vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. Getting vaccinated is safe, and it could save your life and allow us to start getting back to seeing friends and family again. We can do this. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/coronavirus.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
WURD family. The Go to Know campaign for colon cancer is up and running. Go to WURDradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner for your free at-home screening test. It's that simple. Click Go to Know and get your test today.
We are moms, grandmoms, aunts, and sisters who care about our children and our city. We also know the pain, grief, and trauma of having to bury a loved one to violence. I am Dr. Dorothy Johnson Spite, sending a mother's plea to the city of Philadelphia. Please encourage all our children and loved ones to refrain from any form of violence in the days to come. Speak to your sons, daughters, and loved ones. Don't do violence. Let's do peace in our communities across this city. Brought to you by Mothers in Charge, 215-228-1718.
Just one more step. You got it.
You're doing great. This is the sound of a nationally ranked top rehabilitation hospital, home to the largest collection of robotics in the United States, where we continually exceed patient expectations, because no injury is too severe or too minor for our care.
There you go.
This is the sound of success. Moss Rehab. Challenge accepted.
Spring forward to throwback. All this month, when you start or renew your WURD membership, you'll get exclusive WURD throwback swag, vintage backpacks, books, and tees. While supplies last. Offer ends April 30th. Sow seeds into Black Talk Media and grow with us. Visit WURDradio.com/join now to start or renew today.
You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
So we're back, Dr. Taylor, and I wanted to explore a little bit more the area about the school board and education. It seems to me that you acknowledge that there's not a fair funding that happens in the allocations that the state makes to a lot of these districts that have, in my view, it's the districts that have large minority populations, and it's really, when you have it based off of the real estate taxes, then when you're in wealthier communities, you have more per capita that you get, then you get your allocation from the state. And so if you live in more wealthier counties, those students can fare pretty well. So tell me just a little bit more about the Upper Darby school system.
Yes, so Upper Darby is, underfunded by about 16 million. I know that's nowhere near what Philadelphia is underfunded by, but it's underfunded by about $16 million a year. And I mean, I think it was PCCY who did a report on it a few years ago about the underfunding of school districts and how it is affecting the Black and brown communities in our state. And, looking at it as our state in general is in the low tier of how much they give to school funding from the state. But then also looking at the disparities in the equitable distribution, last time I looked, I want to say they might have been like 47th out of 50 in the disparities. And, even in Delaware County, looking at where we are, we have districts like our, Radnor School District, who might be able, because of the school funding formula and the way it exists, might be able to put their spending somewhere around $20,000 per pupil, or maybe even over at this point. Whereas you have William Penn School District, same county, William Penn School District, who is able to spend somewhere around $10,000 per per student. And my numbers may be off a little bit, but you get the gist of where we are.
We get it, yeah.
And so, that's the type of system that our state funding has created.
I mean, we fight, and it's an issue, and then it has a correlation, because the correlation is that when we don't properly educate our children and provide the strong educational background, then what we have is poverty. And what we're getting when we talk about crime and all of the things that we're fighting in the city, somebody, and that somebody has to be all of us, have to draw a line in the sand when it comes to educating our children. And so I think we're going to go back to you again, that you made a commitment, you came back, you ran for the school board in 2017, and I guess you decided that that's not where you want to stop, because you probably understood, I know what I can do to help my community by being on the school board, but I think I can do something more because I see some other disparities. So tell me, I'm leading you on. Tell me what made you go to the next level?
Yes. So one of my initiatives at the school district level was working with our students in our administration, and looking at our students who are looking to go, not going to college for whatever reason, or not going directly on to college, and making sure that those students understood what their options were and had access to options that were going to help them to gain a family sustaining wage. And through that process, I was working with the unions and working with the IT companies in the city, working IT companies all around the area, at places where you can get a job, but you don't have to have a bachelor's degree. And that job is going to be able to give you a wage that you can actually raise a family on and live on. And through that process, what I found was that Delaware County, we were behind on resources and workforce development. And I found myself using resources from various other counties. So whether it was Chester County or Montgomery County, or even the city of Philadelphia. And, we were able to set up a pretty good system and a network with our students at Upper Darby, but that made me think about the fact that, okay, well, this is just one of 16 school districts in the county. And why don't we have a system that's able to do this for all of the county? And it made me look more into what was going on at the county level. And once I started to look into what was going on there, there were issues that started to pop up. We don't have a health department. We are the largest county.
Now, wait a minute, repeat that, go back. So when you say you don't have a health department, you mean Delaware County as a county?
Yes.
Does not have a health department.
Yes, Delaware County as a county does not have a health department. Yes.
That's interesting.
It is. And that was one of those things that was just shocking to me. It's just like, okay, as someone coming from allied health and understanding the role and the need of the health department, and then seeing that we don't have one, and then doing more research and realizing that, we are the largest county in the country by population that doesn't have a health department. And then looking more into it, the county level also realized that we are the only county who has a private prison in the state of Pennsylvania. And so the more I looked into what was going on at the county level, the more I was just like, well, I feel like I can do more and I can help in other areas. And that's really what moved me to wanting to run for county council.
So what do you think was happening that would make the previous choices to have a private prison but not have a health department?
Well, I think there was just a different mindset that was going on in the county prior to our being able to win in 2019. And, the undertaking of a health department, it's going to cost more, it's going to cost money. at some point, whether that's just the startup cost or whether that's on an ongoing basis. But that was something that the previous administration had decided, we didn't need a health department. And, even looking at the prison situation, right now we are looking at deprivatizing the prison and bringing that back into county control. And so those are all pieces of the puzzle that, we have an amazing team at county council. So there's 5 of us, which is great because there's a lot of work to do. So there's a lot of work to go around. And we each bring kind of our own flavor to the table of what we like to focus on. And so that really works well, and we work well as a team.
Now, did you all run together? What year did you run for county council?
Ran for county council in 2019, and so I ran with, there were 2 Democrats who had gotten on in 2017, Brian and Kevin. They both got on in 2017, and they were the first Democrats to be elected onto county council in a very, very long time. And then the 3 of us, myself, Elaine Schaefer, and Christine Ruther, ran together in 2019, and we all won. And that's what now we have the majority. So we're 5 out of 5 on county council. And it's
so there are 5 seats, and all 5 are held by Democrats.
Yes, and it is the first time that it is a Democratic majority since before the Civil War in Delaware County.
That's a long time.
It is a very long time.
That's a really long time.
So your win is historic.
Yes, our win was very historic. Yes.
Yes.
So now, tell me, and I'm going to let Rita, I know you want to hop in. So now you're working on getting, where are you in getting this health department?
Well, we've actually been able to continue the process of, we had our first meeting with the state, myself and a few others who had been working on our transition team for public health. We were able to go and meet with the state health department in January. So a week after I was sworn in, we went to go meet with the state health department to discuss what the steps are. And really, it typically takes usually 2 years or 2 to 3 years to do a health department, because there's several steps that you have to do that are required by the state in order to gain accreditation so that we can have access to the state and federal funding that we need to support the health department. And so we wanted to lay that out, map it out, and figure out where we are, what we needed to do. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And we have been able to continue on with our progress, even despite the pandemic. We hired a consultant to work on a strategic plan. We were able to put together a steering committee of various stakeholders and individuals who are really invested in the outcome of our health department and gaining a health department in Delaware County. And we've created a strategic plan. Johns Hopkins did a health analysis of the county. That was completed in July. We are doing an economic impact study. We just appointed our Board of Health in our meeting on April 7th. And so they are starting to get moving towards hiring a director of the health department. While they're doing that, our steering committee is continuing to work on developing the programs that we are required to have by the state for Act 315, which is what governs the health departments. And as we develop those programs, our goal is we are still on track to open the health department in January of 22, which would be basically 2 years after we started the process.
That's impressive. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, Rita has some questions for you. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. We'll be right back.
What's up, Philly? It's Solomon Jones. The world is inching back to normalcy, but our approach to educating our children may never be the same. Commonwealth Charter Academy, or CCA, has nearly 20 years of experience providing a flexible, stable online education in the comfort of your home. Enroll today at ccaeducate.me. Here are the benefits to your children and your family. 1. World-class education and accredited lesson plans streamed directly into your home at no cost to you. 2. Laptops, headphones, and high-speed internet access, all provided at no cost to you. 3. A learning environment completely free from classroom risks like bullying and other distractions. CCA has been in our community long before this health crisis and will continue to faithfully serve students and families well into the future. Join the more than 2,500 students from Philly who already attend CCA. Enroll now at ccaeducate.me.
At Bank of America, we believe in the power of collaboration to create jobs and fuel economic opportunity. That's why we're working with local organizations to help people get the skills they need and build a growing pipeline of talent.
I'm Jim Dever, Bank of America Greater Philadelphia Market President. Our partnership with Philadelphia Youth Network is just one way we're taking action to help more members of our community. What would you like the power to do?
Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
This is WURD Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio.
Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
So we're back, and Rita, you have some questions for Dr. Taylor. Your mic is not on. Your mic is not on.
I was trying to push it. Okay, so welcome, Dr. Monica Taylor. It's a pleasure to have you this afternoon. So I'm curious about the environment that you work in. It is a Delaware County. And can you tell us, as a Black woman assuming leadership in Delaware County as a Democrat, in a formerly Republican-run county for such a long, hundreds of years, for such a long time, how has it been for you assuming leadership? Have you gotten pushback? Tell us how that's been.
Yes. Well, so when we came into office, it was almost like a mass exodus because folks weren't necessarily, maybe they didn't see our vision or, didn't want necessarily to be a part of it. But before the end of the year, before the end of the year in 2019, I want to say there was something like 180 people who resigned or retired in the county government when we came in. So there was a big hurdle in the beginning to take over and revamp the system and start to, working with all of my colleagues on council, one of our first, and it seems simple, but one of our first initiatives was to change the practices of our hiring practices in the county. And,
you had to be before you had to be related to somebody, right?
Yeah, well, yes, there was no way of, posting jobs or pushing it out using things like Indeed or, recruiters and trying to really be systematic with how we're recruiting. where we're
Monica, they didn't need that. That in Delaware County was famous for, and they have a long history that it was Republican politics. Register and be a Republican and go through the party, and that's how you got to work in Delaware County. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes, and so imagine if that's the base that we started with, and then having a large amount of our employees, and especially a lot that were at the higher levels in our government, leave or retire for whatever reason, but they were gone. And so we had to really start the system all over and restructure it so that it worked better, so that we could get more folks applying to these positions and getting the word out. Because as you said, it was shown from the outside that it was harder to get in and more like a closed network. So making people aware that it's not that way anymore. Please apply. We want to have more diversity in our employees. We want to have more employees from all over Delaware County, and getting that message out and also setting up the structure was a big task in the beginning. And so that's a lot what we focused on for the first month or two. And then really by the time we were starting to get our feet underneath of us in terms of HR, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And we had to shift. And
so how was that like having to manage the county in your leadership roles without a health department during a pandemic? What did you put in place to handle the pandemic, getting information out, getting services out to the community? How did you handle that?
Yes, well, so it was difficult in the beginning. We had our Department of Emergency Services was working with, we had our intercommunity health department, and then council worked together to put a intergovernmental agreement together with Chester County. And so that Chester County is acting as our health department for COVID-related activities. And so they've been doing that almost, I want to say maybe since the first week of the pandemic, which is, a testament to them, because they didn't have to do that. And they have been doing it, and they've been doing an amazing job, because without them, I don't know where we would be.
Right. So you're saying that citizens of Delaware County can go to Chester County for services related to the pandemic. And so they've taken on all of that additional work.
Yes. So Chester County is now acting as our health department for anything COVID related. So they do our case investigations, they work with our businesses, they work with our long-term care facilities, our school districts. And so they've taken on that lion's share of work to work with us throughout this whole process.
And so talking about the pandemic, so first it was the pandemic, and people need to get tested, and especially members of our community, Black and Brown community, we need to have access to testing, because we know that members of our community don't. Especially in the beginning of the pandemic, there was a disparity, a clear disparity. And so then we come to vaccinating members of our community. So is Delaware County, because you don't have a health department, is Delaware County meeting the needs of the Black and Brown community that live in Delaware County, or not?
Well, so I think that what we've been doing is throughout the year, we've really been building up our infrastructure, and we have our COVID response team who works for Delaware County and liaisons with Chester County to make sure we're on point for everything. So does our Department of Emergency Services. And one of the things that we did when we were kind of setting out as a county and our group setting out where we wanted to do our vaccines, and where we wanted to target and what areas we wanted to be. We wanted to try to make sure that we were in different pockets of the county as a whole. And so our first location actually was our wellness center, which I didn't even talk about earlier, is that we opened a wellness center in January, which will be the hub of our health department, which is in Yaden. And one of the reasons why it's there is, one, we wanted to make sure we had easy access to public transportation for both right now that wellness center is serving as a vaccine location, but for residents, and we wanted to be in a high density area of the county, and we also wanted to be in an area of that needed services the most. And then when we built it out, we also have, so right now we have 7 locations. It's really kind of 6. We have one in Gaydon, we have one in Chester, we have one in Aston, we have one in the middle of the county in Springfield, we have another one in the north part of the county in Radnor. So the goal was to make sure that people didn't have to go far to get to a vaccine, and that they could get there with public transportation. And we also had our J&J drive-up location that was at the community college, but that's on hold right now because Johnson & Johnson is on hold. And then we also have, our COVID team has been amazing throughout this process, and at the way that they've been thinking about how we could target specific areas. And we have a homebound community that might not be able to get access to vaccine and can't get out of their homes. So we've launched a homebound vaccination program where people can call in, if you have a relative, a friend, a family member, whoever that needs the vaccine and can't get out for whatever reason, we'll come to them and we'll give them the vaccine. And we've also been trying to partner with community groups to do more vaccine pop-up locations, so that we're trying to get into the community as best as possible. And there's always room for improvement. I think in the beginning, especially because we didn't have that much vaccine in the beginning, I know you've probably heard about our struggles out here in the college county.
Yeah, it was mostly in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia, which had a direct relationship with the CDC.
Right.
Most of those counties were struggling.
Yes. And so all of the counties were struggling, and getting more vaccine, and the state wasn't getting much in the beginning, and then making sure we were getting an equitable amount compared to our population and other places in the state, was what we were working on. And so now that we're at a point where we are getting a good amount, so right now we're getting about 14,000, 15,000 doses a week that we're able to get out. If we had J&J, we'd be more up to around 25,000 a week. But since the J&J was halted, we're at about 15,000 a week. And so now we're seeing that we have been able to get to the people who want it. And, it's evolved over the last few months. Originally, the whole programs around the state were all about going online and registering, but understanding that in itself is a barrier for a lot of folks. And so we initiated our call center very early on, and so that we could try and have other ways for people to call in, make an appointment, or go online. And now we're also talking with the municipalities, having them do lists. So you could do a list if you want. The municipalities are getting information from their residents the best way that they know how, because they're right there on the ground in their areas and know what the best way is to communicate with their residents. And so getting them to, okay, now you get lists and you send those lists to us, and we'll get those individuals appointments and sign them up for appointments. Whatever is the best way. We're trying to, as we've been saying, that it's a pivot. Like every week or every other day, it's really a change in how we're doing something. And if we can do it better, that's what we're trying to do, so that we can make sure we're getting people the vaccine that want it, and also getting people education about the vaccine that, might not know enough about it to want to get it, or might just need the information in order to make that next step.
Okay, so my final question is about the Wellness Center. You did mention the Wellness Center and that you wanted it to be the hub of your health department. Can you tell us a little bit about the Wellness Center and what's going to be located there?
Yes, so the Yaden Wellness Center will be the hub of our health department when it opens in January. Our goal is to have we are working on it's called Health 3.0, which is what traditional health departments are now starting to move towards. And the philosophy is that the health department needs to be really embedded in the community to make the biggest impact on the community. And so the Yaden Wellness Center is not a giant brick and mortar traditional health department. It is a smaller footprint, and that's where we will have services there, education programs there. But really, we want our people who are working in the health department to be out in the community and meeting people where they are. And so we're going to have, besides our wellness center in Yaden, our goal is to have 2 other satellite locations. One would be somewhere in Chester and the other one somewhere centrally located in the county. So once again, to make sure that people have more access and they can get to the health department if they need to get to it. But then it's also easier for our individuals who are working in the health department to get out into the community and get to the places that they need to be.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on all that you've done in such a short amount of time. We congratulate you on a job well done. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very impressive because you come in at a time you get hit with the whole pandemic, and you're still processing and putting pieces in place and fixing, some structural things that have happened years ago that you're trying to change. A couple of questions that I do have. So let's talk about the private prison and where you are in that change.
Yes. So right now we are in the process of evaluating. So we went out for RFP back in September and selected a company to look at what it would cost for the county to take over the prison, how many employees we need, what it would look like for services, how do we improve services and improve the prison system in Delaware County. And so they are in the process of actually evaluating that right now and coming back to us so that council can make the final decision sometime midsummer. And so one of my colleagues, Kevin Madden, is actually the council member who's leading that effort.
So it brings me to, we talk a lot here about minority business development and minority businesses. And so people of color are also taxpayers. And so we'd like to see that they have a fair return on their investment in government. And so what is your minority participation in Delaware County? And do you have a minority set-aside program?
Right. So that is a really good question. Our minority participation in Delaware County is very low when we're talking in terms of contractors, in terms of working with the county. And so that's actually one of the things that one of the many issues that we've been working on to reform. And so our last summer, we started it's part of our criminal justice reforms, and it's underneath, we're working with the district attorney's office. And so it's our criminal justice working group. And really our working group is based on county government and community. And so some of our big initiatives out of this group are working on programs and policies to increase diversity and inclusion in our government workforce, creation of programs and policies that are going to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion in the services that we provide out to the community. Also looking at how we go about our purchasing and procurement policies and trying to target and expand access to improve equity for minorities and women-owned businesses, because both are lacking in the county. And so that is something that we are working on, and we are not at a good spot there right now.
So currently, you haven't been in it for a short period of time you've been in. And so it seems to me that we can look forward to seeing all of these new implementations that you have along the way, because you recognize that there was an affirmative action program that existed before you guys came there, but it was affirmative based on your party participation. And so there's a lot to do there in terms of a fairer distribution and access to contracts and the hiring process.
Yes. Yes, and so, it's one of those where, okay, well, it's almost like a blank slate. So even because we don't have much there, we are able to really build out a program that's going to be more effective and more impactful from the ground up. And so, working with our almost basically fully new HR department and various other departments around the county. We are also hiring, we created a new position in this budget for a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer who will help implement policies throughout all of our departments and oversee how we're doing things in all of our areas, but also then looking at HR and our procurement process. We're really starting to move that process along.
Thank you. That sounds good. So let's move to, Philadelphia has had its challenges and is currently having challenges with gun violence and ghost guns and quite frankly, a more frightening situation that every day, there's shootings, and every day every week there's a high number of deaths as a result of this violence. What has Delaware County been experiencing?
We have areas that we still have a high level of gun violence, and working with our district attorney has some new initiatives that he's trying to put forward. Now, remember, our district attorney is also new. So he came in when we came in 2020. And he is also trying to work along with council and trying to look at gun violence in, one of my models is kind of a health in all policies concept, and thinking about, gun violence as it's a public health issue. And that's going to be one of the issues that we are going to work on with the health department. But also, our DA is working on it from our looking at how we can get more guns off the streets and looking at mental health supports at all levels and what our look like in Delaware County. And so that's really looking at it holistically, right? It's not just one thing that's going to fix it, but trying to look at all the various ways and opportunities that we have to be able to help folks and meet folks where they are.
Who handles your behavioral health? I know it's outsourced. Which insurance company is involved in your outsourcing of behavioral health?
Magellan.
Magellan, okay.
Yes.
So it seems, will you roll, well, I imagine you'll keep it that way and not roll it back into your health department.
For behavioral health?
Yes.
So right now, what we are actually looking at is, and we're putting together a think tank on this, although this is not one of the programs that are required through Act 315, which is really that first phase of the health department. It is something that has come up in our listening sessions that we were doing. And so for the health department, we have been doing listening sessions with various stakeholders from all around the county, just to talk about where people see the gaps at and where they think the health department can fit in. And that mental and behavioral health piece is a really big component of where we need some reform. And so the DA is working on a healthy kids, healthy schools initiative, where we're kind of doing an assessment almost of all of the services that are provided around the county. And right now it's very siloed. And so trying to figure out how we can make those systems work better together so that we can provide better support for folks, especially for his initiative, is looking at helping the school districts and helping them in more support. And then we're looking at the health department level, because I also am the liaison for Department of Human Services at the county, how to best where the synergy is between the Department of Human Services and the Health Department when it comes to mental and behavioral health, and where we can improve what we're already doing.
So if you want to get your hands around it, as the struggle is, as we begin to see, not just in Pennsylvania, but nationwide, that we have to be able to reorder our priorities and really put the resources at the core of where our problems exist. And we find that, if we have good behavioral health programs and culturally competent as well in communities of color, that we may be able to do a little bit about that. So we have to take a break, and we'll be right back, and we're going to come and close with you and get some of what you want to do in the future, as if you haven't done enough already. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com.
We are people of resilience, so let's protect our lives with vaccines we can trust. We can do this.
To learn more about COVID-19 vaccines, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls, they are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
If you're feeling down or feeling blue and want someone to help you process it all, let's talk with Yolanda. She's not only a social media motivational speaker, she's a psychotherapist by trade and certified in prolonged exposure therapy for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. If you need counseling or seeking a life coach, contact Yolanda Novoa, 267-574-4632. Let's talk with Yolanda. She can be seen on Facebook and YouTube.
Tune in this Saturday at 3 p.m. for the Friends of Farrakhan show, understanding the ultimate truth of the knowledge of self and the knowledge of God.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for May is Living in Color by Tommy Davidson. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, May 11th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit WURDradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
This is not a fad for us.
We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are
Undeniably,
indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media.
WURD.
You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio.
Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
From really feeling free.
You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com, and we're back. So, Dr. Taylor, we enjoyed our hour with you, and we certainly did get a lot of information.
Yes.
And for our listeners who are listening and that live in Delaware County, you really do have a great representative with Dr. Taylor. It's amazing when someone comes to office with good, fresh ideas and the ability to implement them. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, you were challenged by the fact that you did not have a health department, and your team set forth, the team that you were elected with set forth to rectify the problem. You saw the problem, and you're doing something about it. And so I think that we commend you, number one, and it falls in a line of what Rita and I and the late Dr. Chappelle would say: if you want something done, send a woman. Yes, send a woman. Sisters come and they roll up their sleeves when they see a void, and they don't complain. They jump out there, they roll up their sleeves, and they try to get it done. And this is a program that tries to get things done and tries to speak to people who get things done. And so we appreciate you coming on, and we're going to give you the last word on this. And so, tell the audience and tell tell Delaware County what you're trying to do for them going forward.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. This has been a pleasure. And thanks for highlighting Delaware County and kind of what we're doing. We have a great team on council who are really working towards trying to make these structural, systematic changes in the county government that hasn't been there for a while. And so Delaware County residents and everyone else, Philly residents, we are there to work with Philadelphia, work with Chester County, work with Montgomery County to try and develop the best relations possible so that we can improve where we are at Delaware County, whether that's the health department, whether that's the jail, whether that's economic development. Our goal is to move the county forward so that we can best serve our residents. And we have a lot of work to do, but we are pushing all of our agenda forward.
How do they reach you through the county if they want to assist or have questions? And
feel free to email me. We all have office hours. Normally we have office hours where people could just pop in, and I am in Upper Darby and I'm in the media office. But you can email me at Taylor, TAYLORM @co.delaware.pa.us. And so now I do office hours virtually for really anybody, any community member who wants to pop in and chat virtually. You can let me know what your issues are or ideas that you might have for areas that we can improve on. So look forward to chatting with you.
How refreshing is that? How refreshing is that? Well, thank you so much. We really, really, really appreciate you coming on, and we want you to come back. We are going to keep checking in on you in the health department and some of the changes that you've made, that you guys are making collectively. So we look forward to it. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Taylor, and good luck with everything.
Yes, good luck.
Thank you. I look forward to talking to you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So Rita, we've had a lot going on in the past couple of weeks. And Dr. Taylor is just a very refreshing person.
Yes.
In terms of what good leadership can be about. And so for me, what young leadership can look like. You see a problem and you set out to make the changes. And that change can be made within government. And she has that can-do spirit. She was
refreshing, like you said. She was like a breath of fresh air, really. She was, because she's not, she's bringing younger energy in, and she's bringing new energy in to a county government that really was rife with problems. They had no HR. They had no way to post jobs or hire or fire anyone.
Well, but Rita, they had something. Their HR was the Delaware County headquarters of the Republican headquarters. That's how they worked.
That is ridiculous. They didn't even have a health department. They didn't have a health department. They don't have diversity goals. In 2021, they have no diversity goals for minorities, for women, for veterans. I'm really surprised at Delaware County, but it sounds like they have the right mix of people in now that has been seated into their council that's going to get it done, and it's going to rectify those issues, because those are major issues in this day and time. In 2021, those are major issues that have to be corrected. And so kudos and hats off to Delaware County Council.
Yes, most definitely. So I wanted to, I'm looking it up now, there was an event that Black Women's Leadership is involved in terms of the judges. And, we are supporting, okay, here it is. We want you to join us for a judicial forum as we meet with candidates for the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court and the PA Supreme Court and the PA Superior Court. This panel will be moderated by the Honorable Frederica Messiah Jackson, and it will be April 29th at 5 p.m. And you can register at http. I think that what I'm going to do is there's got to be another way for me to put this out there. I'm going to try and put it a better way, because I think I'd prefer it to be a phone number, and then we will go from there.
Okay.
I think I'm going to try to do that before the end of the show, so that we can do it. Okay. But we need to have more judicial forums, and we're working on one for the DA, because that's important. It's real important when we consider the George Floyd, the I wouldn't say that it was his. I don't want to say his trial. It was the Derek Chauvin trial of the killing of George Floyd, and when we consider all that had to happen with the trying of that case, it's real important that we make sure that we have people in office that are going to look out for our best benefit. Our best benefit.
That's right. Our community.
Yes.
Looking out for us and what's really happening, and looking at it with a practical, realistic eye, rather than, glossing over it as if, the members of the community are hysterical or somehow seeing something that's not there. It's realistic. Be realistic with what's going on in our community. That's what we expect, and that's what we deserve. And finally, we got some accountability in this whole systemic racism that permeates most police departments around the country. And we see it all over the country. Members of our community are cut down, shot down, and rarely, if ever, do we get any accountability for this excessive use of force and the policing that goes on in our community that does not go on to that extent in other communities.
For the judicial forum, what I want you to do is to email us at bwlcphilly, that's PHILLY, @gmail.com, and then we'll send you the link for the event. So that makes better sense to do. So again, for the judicial forum on April 29th at 5 p.m., we want you to email us at bwlcphilly@gmail.com, and we'll send you the link for the event. So I just think that focusing in on some of the stuff, okay, somebody's phone is is vibrating on air. I don't know if it's not mine.
No, not mine either. My phone isn't ringing. You can hear it?
Yes, and Jordan is telling me that it is. So I think that, Rita, going forward, next week we're going to have a group of professionals on. They are the Coalition of Culturally Competent Services agencies that provide that. And we've talked about this a great deal on this program, how we have agencies that are actually, they're either minority run or they have a significant programming that really goes at the heart of addressing some of the issues to provide services in the Black community, therapy services, things that we need. That comes from a perspective and from people who understand how to do that treatment. And we've talked about it a lot. There's a lot of good therapists out here, and we want you to get to know them. And we all need it. You know, at some point we have been traumatized. I certainly know through COVID and through the shootings and through the trials and through all of the things, we're in a constant stage, as one would say, a constant state of rage as a result of all of the things that are getting thrown at us. And trauma. Yeah. Well, we've been traumatized for the past 400 years.
We have been traumatized and re-traumatized and overly traumatized in every aspect of our lives, and we talk about it every week. So exposing this group of mental health professionals that are culturally aware and look like members of our community is so important. It's so important, and it has to be part of what we're trying to do and bring to members of our community, so that the stigma of mental health counseling, we can do away with that, because it's sorely needed. You can look at the students online trying to get their lessons, their school lessons every day. But there's so much going on, so much trauma that they've already lived through and no one's addressing, that it's so difficult for us to even get our kids to get online to go to school.
You're absolutely correct. I got a phone call from someone that we're both familiar with, a Black Women's Leadership Council member who is helping her grandson, and she says that the Philadelphia school system, is very difficult, and she's frustrated, and she can't get through to the school district, and they're leaving messages and stuff. Why are they doing that to our children?
I mean, it just is, and so I still can't figure out why they're forcing the issue of, yes, we want students back in school, but we want them back in school safely. There's so much that has gone on during this pandemic that needs to be addressed, that hasn't been addressed, and you just want to throw the kids, the parents, back into the schools without any supports. And so they're struggling. Families are struggling. And there are many schools where the administration isn't there every day. They're working remotely. And so there's no one to answer the calls, no one to help. And so what is the school district doing about that?
Even when there is someone there to help, if you're not giving the appropriate instructions so that the parent can follow along, or if you're giving instructions that don't make any sense and the parent can't follow along, and then they can't reach anybody to say that, here's the problem, we can't speak to anyone, that's absolutely what I believe to be ridiculous. What they're saying is that when they call the school district, they cannot get anybody to have a conversation about it. We have to take a break. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. We'll be right back.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline. is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Sankofa Freedom Academy Charter School is an African-centered public freedom school now accepting student enrollment from kindergarten through 12th grade. Visit www.sfacs.us and click the Intent to Enroll button to complete the form for the 2021-22 school year. For more information, call 215-288-2001.
Hello, this is Councilmember Isaiah Thomas. I'm calling with important information about COVID-19 vaccines. In the upcoming weeks, all Philadelphians over the age of 16 will be eligible for the vaccination. However, you must register with the city to get vaccinated. Register today at www.phila.gov and fill out the vaccine interest form or email covid@phila.gov. If you can't complete the online form, call 311 to get registered. Your information is confidential, so please get registered today. Thank you.
Small business owners are navigating an evolving small business landscape brought on by coronavirus. However, their resilience is reflected in Bank of America's 2020 Small Business Owner Report, a nationwide survey on 1,000 small business owners, which found that nearly 1/4 of small business owners took steps in 2020 to retool their offerings and/or leverage their resources to support relief efforts in their communities. While many saw an impact in their bottom line last year, small business owners anticipate a strong post-pandemic environment, and 79% believe small businesses will return to be the backbone of the U.S. economy. Inspired by the small business owners facing unprecedented challenges, Bank of America continues their commitment to help small business owners in Philadelphia with the necessary resources to sustain and grow. For more information, visit bankofamerica.com.
Did you hear the word around the community? HPP and HPF's very own Stacey Scott will be reporting live from WURD, 96.1 FM and 900 AM each and every fourth Sunday of the month from 5 p.m. until 6 p.m. Be sure to spread the word and tune in. Want to call in and be a part of the community party? Email Stacey Scott at scott@hpplans.com. Again, that is scott@hpplans.com. You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio.
Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Whoa, oh, mercy, mercy me. Oh, things ain't what they used to be. No, no, no. Where did all the blue skies go? Poison is the wind that blow from the north, south, and east. Mercy, mercy me. Oh, things ain't what they used to be. No, no. All wasted on the ocean and upon the sea. Fish full of mercury.
You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. So Rita, this has been a struggle for me today because my allergies are really bothering me today. But we had a shortened version of this program. I did listen in on the previous program hosted by Sarah Lomax-Reese. And there was one comment I wanted to make because, you know, Sarah got gum. I mean, she don't let people just tell her anything, you know. Yeah. So she was talking with Michael Rashid, and I really wished I could have just busted right on through. The comment that where she raised is that he had somehow was making an excuse for those businesses that get city contracts and they don't fulfill their minority participation part.
Right.
And then a lot of them claim that they don't know how to get minorities to fulfill it. And I wanted to say that in my experience, having worked at both state and local government, the way that you get them to fulfill it is not give them the contract. You see, people will find people that they didn't think that they could find when they understand that they're not going to get what they thought that they were going to get.
That's right.
Tell them that unless they have it, and they'll find them in a minute, and they'll give them everything that they want, because what they want is they would rather have 50% of something than 100% of nothing.
That's right.
And they will go out and do it. But as long as they can get the people on the other side to take the position that, well, you know, they say they can't do it. No, they play that game all the time. So I wanted
all the time.
They play that game all the time.
And there are plenty of black businesses that can step up to the plate and work a city, a state, or federal contract. That's why I like the Walter P. Lomax legislation that Sherelle Parker put forward earlier in the year, because it forces contractors to disclose every 6 months the makeup of their workforce, who's working, and without that, then that's what happens. They get away with it, and not having the minority participation that they came in the door with, they get away with that. But when you have to report every 6 months, then that's a different standard. That's a different standard.
So I also wanted to go, one of our earlier callers mentioned when we talked about that it was important to have the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison, to be there in order to handle the case. And he made a point that that I intended to make today, was that we must really give a great deal of thanks to Danella Frazier. And she's the young woman who was 17 at the time, who
absolutely
used her phone to video the thing from start to end, and then posted it online. Without her, there wouldn't have been a George Floyd
That's
trial.
right.
It would have really rested on the lie that they had told. And again, this just goes to show you the kind of that young women who have a firm belief in justice. And this young woman had a firm belief in justice. And I felt saddened to hear her testify that she blamed herself for not being able to help him. What could she have done? She did what she could do. And because she did that, she may not have been able to stop the murder, but she certainly did help convict the murderer.
Yes.
And
she ensured there would be accountability. And we have to all thank her for that, because without that video, none of this would have been possible.
It's really important. And it goes to something that I talk about every week. We got to have heart. What I am tired of in the city of Philadelphia, and I'm speaking right now to my brothers and my sisters in the city of Philadelphia, you can't pray a new city. You can't beg a new city. You got to be about making the city different. And what I have seen is that some people step up to the plate and they fight really hard, that have the moxie of a Danella. And then there's some, and far too many, who are in positions of authority and power.
Right.
Who, and I use this term, and I know it's offensive, I call them punks. We got too many punks and not enough people with strength. No, we do. I'm tired of the punks. And what punks will do, they take one of these positions, they get in bed with people who are going to harm our community. They play games constantly. They play games with us. And then they're the first ones who want to say, oh, we have all of these problems. We have these problems because you collaborate with people who are not out for the best interest of your community. And so if there's nothing else that I'm going to do first, I'm going to start calling your names out. You want to play the game of being sneaky and making deals because it benefits you personally, I'm going to talk about you. I'm going to talk about you. Because
okay, Joanne.
I am tired of them. They know who they are. They mislead you, and when the reason why this city is set back, as far back as it's set back, is because we've had years of people selling us down the drain for their own personal benefit and interest.
Right, or at least perceived benefit. Protecting a job or a position.
Protecting jobs, taking little pieces of stuff.
Right. That's right. And it's not even worth it for what they sell us out for. No. For what they get in return. What they get in return is not nearly worth what they sell us out for.
So I just want, this has been bothering me for the last several weeks. I see it. It happens. You question it, and I'm tired of it. We got this democratic system in this city, and the same people get all of the benefits, and then make decisions that hurt the general population, and then they wonder why our kids are out here shooting each other because they have no resources because you didn't traded it away. I'm sorry, I'm tired of it.
And we should all be tired of it, Joanne. And we should all be tired of it.
So, come what may, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So it's time to wrap up, and I'm going to take a point of personal privilege to say that I want to congratulate my grandson, Jeremiah Howard Bell, for making the honor roll.
Whoa!
I am so proud of Mr. Jeremiah Bell, and hopefully he'll give us a great senior year and off to college. So I'm so proud.
That is wonderful.
I am. And so, Rita, what are your parting words?
Well, I just would like to say to the listening audience that let's take stock in what was achieved yesterday with the conviction of Derek Chauvin. It's a step, it's only one step in the right direction for justice for our community. So we're going to remain vigilant, and we're going to remain hopeful that we're going to turn this system of racism, systemic racism, around for our community, for members of our community. So we take stock in what happened yesterday and remain faithful, but remain ever vigilant towards gaining justice for our community.
Well, so we're gonna let Jordan take us out, but just remember, we're coming, and we're gonna start calling names.
And we're coming.
If you don't want to change, we're gonna help you change. We'll see you next week, Jeremiah. We'll call him Jeremiah. Jordan.